Welcome to the show. This is Oh So Curious, the podcast. We're three curious minds trying to tell time, but it's not just three curious minds today. It's all of us, baby. So let's meet our gang, our friends. First, we have the crime boss himself. I'm not saying his intentions are fishy. I'm just calling him the Penguin. Daniel, how are you?
Did you just call me the Penguin? Okay,
No,
I'll take it as a compliment.
No.
I'll take it.
I
I'll take
compared
it.
you. It's a difference. How are you, Daniel?
Yeah, I'm doing well.
Okay, we're moving on.
Okay.
Next, we have someone crazier than Harley Quinn herself. Mags, how are you?
Ooh.
Wonderful. I'm so happy we're all here. It's like
I
school
know.
reunion. It's great.
It's so fun. Next, we have the man with a heart as cold as ice, Mr. Freeze.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
Andrew.
I was wondering where...
Yeah, that was good. I like that.
Andrew, how
That was
are you?
good. I'm just shocked that was unanimous. Wow.
What can I say? And then next, I saw him in a cardigan. We have the Riddler, Brian.
I
How
like
are
that
you?
one.
It's been so long.
Yeah, it's been a while, but it's great to be back and great to be doing the show with you guys.
Well, I'm glad everybody's here today. We have some important things to talk about. So let's just get into it. We've already said hi. Let's do the rundown.
Let's do it.
So first we have quick hits, which Brian is lucky enough to do. He's the quick straw of the West, so he'll tell us what's happening this week. Next we have What Did Andrew Say? It's probably negative as he talks about Mother. Next we have the best segment, Rolan Underground. And then we get to talk about the Batman review, that new one, you know, that movie. And then maybe a little preview, what our next episode is going to be with our crystal ball. What does that mean? Well, we're going to be talking about what's happening in the future. It'll be fun. By the way, I just have to say, I was listening to the best podcast I had ever listened to. Have you heard it? It's called Oh So Curious. Yeah, that's how I'm starting this. Make sure to follow us. If you are on any sort of listening streaming platform, guess what? We're on it, baby. Please sure to make the follow, like, share. You know, it doesn't even have to be to anyone you like. Just share it. Share it to your senators, to your distant cousins that you were never allowed to talk to. Put us on notifications. I thought it would be fun. Anyways, let's do quick hits.
Hey everyone, what's going on? This is Brian Jennings here with this week's Quick Hits for episode 18 of Oh So Curious, the Batman preview. And here's what went down this week. After years of anticipation and months of hype building, the Batman is finally out in theaters. So far, the majority of critics and audiences love it. According to Deadline, the Matt Reeves directed superhero thriller is set for a $225 million plus opening weekend at the worldwide box office. Variety revealed this week that voice actor John DiMaggio has officially signed on to return for the upcoming Hulu revival of the cult hit animated series Futurama. DiMaggio celebrated the news saying, quote, "I'm back, baby." And lastly, another Netflix series became the victim of a heist. This time, thieves got away with $330,000 worth of equipment from the set of Lupin. The news came just days after over $200,000 worth of props were stolen from the set of The Crown while shooting in Yorkshire, England. As fans of these shows, we hope Netflix's fortunes turn soon. And that's it for this week's Quick Hits. Oh, and before I forget, were you able to check out our review of The Batman? You haven't? Well, what are you waiting for? Go check it out now. Yes, go check it out right now. We're done here.
It's a good film.
I looked up the most pretentious films I could find.
So Andrew is gonna go watch Mother.
Last night I watched Darren Aronofsky's film, Mother, ! It was pretty good. Yes, it was a little difficult to follow, but about 15 minutes in I kind of got the idea. This is an allegory. It's a retelling of biblical stories where Javier Bardem, he's playing God, Jennifer Lawrence's Mother Earth. That's the conceit of the film. It uses very dreamlike imagery, and while over the top and jarring in some respects, I found this was clever at its best, but carried with it a sort of adolescent rage toward the destruction of nature. And in those respects, I found it a little cloying. Otherwise, I would say artistically, Aronofsky is a master. I'm a big fan of his films. High concept, beautifully produced, and he doesn't assault you with visual effects, but they do absolutely complement the surreal depiction of the message. It was pretty good.
Welcome to Gotham Underground, where we talk about what's happening in the world above in my dead parents' basement. I'm your host, Rolan Underground. This is the same Batman costume I had when I was 6. Yeah, so if it wasn't obvious, I can't wear this. If it wasn't obvious, last night I watched the new Batman movie with Robert Pattinson, and let me just say, that movie was fantastic, and I very much loved it. It was not the best movie, though. The new Batman movie was great. It was fan service, but at the same time not fan service, I feel like. My biggest problem was that there was a lot of clashing styles. Because it was very much like modern times, it was gritty, it was real, but there were some things where I was like, oh, that's like 60, like especially Batman's car. When you first see Batman's car, you're very much like, oh my gosh, that's awesome! Like that's so, but it was very like 60s vibes, and there was like some things. Also, all of the cops and Penguin sounded like they were from like an 80s cop drama. Once you realize that, I feel like it throws off a lot of the dialogue, especially Jim Gordon. Like, I loved Jim Gordon, and he was, like, such a G. Like, he really was. But it was hilarious to hear him talk, because he'd be like, so you're saying that the Riddler has riddles? He didn't say that word for word, but it was that vibe. You know what I mean? Like, it was just very, like, very dramatic, just, like, very serious. It was, I don't know, it was funny. Also, Catwoman was dope. I loved her. Zoe Kravitz, just phenomenal. I was getting very, like, early the Batman animated series vibes from her costume, which was cool. I liked her costume. I don't know. The movie was fantastic, and I'm sure they'll say this, but at the end there was probably some fat to cut. Like, it was a little too long for my taste. But my main thing that I want to talk about from this movie is that there's this scene where, spoiler alert, Selina Kyle's apartment gets, like, ransacked, and the fridge door is open. And the whole time, I'm just like, dude, shut the door. Shut the fridge door. That's a waste of energy. Like, that's common sense. And she goes to the fridge and pours herself a glass of milk, obviously. And then doesn't shut the fridge door. It infuriated me. There was a lot. I really liked the whole, like, Zodiac killer with the Riddler. Honestly, I feel like they could have gone like a step further. I don't know. I feel like I think the problem was that it was too long, so you couldn't focus too much on the Riddler, if that makes sense. Anyways, that's my review. I'm sorry I couldn't be there. But I'm thinking of you.
Wow, that was quite phenomenal. Honestly, that touched me in a certain place in my heart I never thought was possible. Thank you, Rolan Underground, for speaking the truth. But enough about Rolan Underground. Let me hear about what you guys like. Dan, what do you think of the Batman?
I'll just say this. I was somewhat underwhelmed, but impressed nonetheless.
Okay, I like that. Andrew, do you have a better quote? I just want to see if you can stump it, because that was a good quote.
I'm gonna keep it simple. It was bad.
I don't know what I expected.
All right.
All right.
Expected.
Yeah, that was on me, and I can admit that. Mags, what do you think about that?
Damn, how do I top any of those comments? Today, I mean, normally me and Andrea are on opposite sides of spectrum, but today I think we're finally aligned. So
Really?
yeah.
Yeah, like just like real quick, like what was your biggest thing that turned you off?
Do you want me to get into it? Do you really want me to?
You're right. I changed my mind.
To open
Brian,
that can of worms. Move on. Yeah.
Brian, I didn't ask you. Brian, what did you think about it before we start talking about this?
Yeah. I mean, obviously we had to get used to some, new people and some new roles. And I mean, for what it was, I thought it was pretty solid. There were obviously some things that threw me off about it and some things that I had to get used to, some things I didn't agree with, but for the most part, I thought it was pretty good for what it was.
All right, a little more positive than the rest of us, and I respect that. By the way, if it isn't obvious to our listeners, we're about to do some spoilers. It's almost inevitable. Like we have to, because there's some things that we just need to talk about. But let me ask you guys this: what do you think this iteration is any different than what we've seen in the past? Why now are we seeing this version of Batman?
What version would you call it?
I mean, I think they pitched this as they've this whole time they've pitched it as this noir detective crime thriller sort of a movie. Like they kept saying, like Matt Reeves kept saying, we have never seen like a true detective, like Batman do detective work, which always struck me as like, yeah, we have. Like we've seen it in The Dark Knight where he goes and takes the brick out of the wall and then reconstructs the bullet. We have seen Michael Keaton's Batman do detective work. We've also seen Ben Affleck's Batman do detective work. He does detective work
every single one of them.
Yeah. I mean, it just, I think the idea that they were saying, they were trying to go for is this whole movie is like one long episode of like, I don't know, like I'm generalizing, but like let's say you were watching a cop and robbers show like Law and Order SVU or CSI. It felt like that. So I think that's what they meant by this being a different, bold, new take. And obviously the cinematography in this movie is very different from any other version that we have ever come across.
In my opinion, this film should have come out after Tim Burton trilogy and before Chris Nolan ones, because I don't think it was as groundbreaking as it advertised it to be.
We lost you, Max.
We lost Max.
It's almost like they made the job difficult on themselves by showing so much in the trailer.
Max, you cut out at first. Can you repeat that?
Sorry. I was just saying that I think they raised the bar too high for themselves, because in the trailer they really hyped us. They really made us excited about something as innovative, as new, as fresh as what Chris Nolan did, but it didn't happen for me personally. It wasn't anything new. I mean, we're going to talk about this later. There were some new aspects, some things that were speaking of which, the Robert Pattinson's take on Bruce Wayne as a child of like of having his parents murdered and stuff, and what that does to a person. Sure, yeah, we could even write an essay about this performance. However, everything else, I must strongly disagree. It was not anything. It was very underwhelming. That's why I agree with partially what Dan said, essentially. Yeah.
Okay. The trailers were definitely giving off like, this is emo Batman. So when I went to the movie, I was very happy with Robert Pattinson's performance. And I don't know. It's definitely, it's weird because I do agree. You think this is going to be a very like gritty more modern take of a detective, but like they even show him like he's not necessarily the best detective. Like he's not perfect.
He's a terrible detective in this movie. He's
pretty good at riddles. He's pretty good at the riddle.
Okay, well, the riddles he was good with. Like, I'll say this, the riddles he was good with, but I think outside of that, it's half the clues either presented themselves to him, somebody else did it for him, or they just happened to stumble upon the answer.
I thought the riddles were cheesy. I thought they were good.
Some of them,
I didn't like them. I didn't care for them.
My question would be, does he have to be this superhero? Because that's what we're leaving for superheroes. But Batman, he never had, his people keep saying that his special powers was the fact that he was rich, which funny enough, it's a motive now. But I really like that aspect about Pattinson's Batman because it made him more human. Every punch he got he was struggling. Yeah. And I really, really enjoy that part of it. And there's other aspects.
I will say
he felt like the most vulnerable of the Batman that you've ever seen, like in the sense that I think more than any other Batman movie ever, if you were to take the character of Batman out of this and just replace him with any other protagonist this movie would have worked just as well, because I mean, obviously getting shot at point blank range by automatic weapons would be a different situation, but other than that, I think that this movie would have worked just as well if it wasn't a Batman film. Is what I'm trying to say.
Well, I'll say this: I did enjoy seeing a fallible Batman. I liked seeing him swing off a bridge and fall. That was neat.
The action scenes were good. I thought they were pretty good.
Some of the actions, I liked the flood sequence. I think the movie really picked up for me once I saw Paul Dano's face. But I really lay a lot of the blame with this movie at the directing. It was super
I
long.
do as well. Yeah.
It was badly paced out. The detective theme didn't really come across to me at all. In fact, some of the scenes where they're trying to reason things out didn't make much sense. It felt kind of clumsy. It almost seemed like one of those 1970s blaxploitation films where it's like, well, what if we say this word backwards? It was like, it was such silly nonsense that didn't really fit with the rest of the tone, which I found redundant. It was just everybody talking like Chris Nolan's Batman. It was just everybody doing this like.
I love when Rolan did it best. I think he mentioned in his Rolan Underground version of the review where he said that tonally this movie had a lot of things that were sort of fighting each other, and I felt that like whether it was through dialogue, how some like Gordon's character like starts talking in this weird tone at times, and I actually started giggling and I'm like, oh, I kind of get what they're going for, but it totally dissipated all the tension it was building. And even like the gag, for example, when he shows up at that club, whatever, I'm forgetting the name of that harbor club, whatever, with all the mob people.
That's the thing. It was so irrelevant.
He showed up three. Sorry, no, I was gonna say that he showed up. He shows up there 3 times, and in those 3 times, the first time he's like, "You know who I am," and he's dressed up as the Batman, and then he beats up the twins. Which the twin thing I thought was. I thought it came across as an attempt at comedy, and it didn't work for me because it worked as like a comic relief, but it wasn't well placed. And then the second time he comes in, he's dressed as Bruce Wayne with no makeup. The third time, he just like knocks on the door, disappears, walks in, closes the door behind him, and it was just like the 1, 2, 3. There's a joke and here's a punchline. And I just felt like every time they went to it after the first time, because the first time it's novel, you get it, like, oh, that's cool. But then the 2 more times that they did it, and then each time sort of iterating on the previous version for the sake of comic relief. And both of those times, it was coming at a moment when it was supposed to be like building up tension. It completely destroys that for me. So that, I think, is part of the pacing issue that Andrew mentioned in directing and editing.
So, but the point I wanted to make here is that, like, it really wasn't anything new. I didn't see any. Robert Pattinson didn't add anything new to this character for me, except for a Justin Trudeau haircut.
I argue.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
I will argue to death with that. Because, hear me out. I promise, guys, I will stay quiet to it. But let me just give you a short summary of Robert Pattinson and what was brilliant about this character. The fact he fights from the ground and not from the above. I don't know if you picked up on it. He was not attacking anyone. I think there was one scene where he actually jumps off the roof, but he's almost like scared of heights. That's the kind of... And the opening sequence, he's, you know, in between the crowd. He's just very, very human.
There's a humanistic
element. The light.
Exactly.
Another thing was he clearly doesn't like the light. There was this really cool scene where he puts the glasses on because you know he's not comfortable.
Well, he's literally like a vampire because he's up all night.
Yeah, really.
Nocturnal.
Little praise to Twilight. And then when he gets hit, I was getting Fight Club vibes. He was like craving that pain. He was craving that facing off this kind of release of whatever issues he was kind of going through. And it was as brutal, as intimidating as Bane. So to me, he was more of a monster rather than the good guy.
By the way, at the end, when he injects himself with that thing, was that Venom?
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing. The green stuff in the vial, right?
It was... the color of it was weird, but I thought it was supposed to be like adrenaline, you know?
Adrenaline.
Yeah, but I thought like it might be like a nod.
You wouldn't do that to your leg. I mean, well, you could. Like in the Batman Begins, they have like that antidote that they inject Rachel with, and they do it in, I think, the neck. But usually you don't do it in the leg. But whatever, I don't know.
Right.
I think it was meant to be like adrenaline. Yeah.
When I say that there's nothing different about this, it's that it felt like, tonally, it just felt like more Dark Knight stuff. And Catwoman, even stylistically, was just kind of looked like a rehash of the Halle Berry.
Oh, we're going there. It wasn't that bad.
It just it seems to me that, you know, with Tim Burton's Batman and with, you know, Adam West, to go back even further, like we started out with this campy sense of humor, then it got a little darker, we took it more seriously, but it was still fun. Then we went gritty, and it was really serious, and the last three have been super gritty and real, and if we're gonna do something new with Batman, let's do something new with him.
Well, Angie, let me ask you this, because you did talk about Michael Keaton. How do you feel about him reprising his role? And then I believe there's going to be another Batman in the CW universe this year coming too. So that's 3 Batman.
Well, no, because the Ben Affleck's coming back to the same movie that Michael Keaton's going to be in, The Flash.
But there's like CW, there's like reports.
There might be a 4th version. That one is not so confirmed, but they have 2 Batman in the Flash movie, and obviously the one that we're talking about now.
I'm gonna be honest. I didn't know Bruce Affleck was gonna make a comeback. I thought they fired him.
He's coming. He's coming back.
Wow.
Well, thank goodness. But let's.
I think this is one of those reactive things. This is one of those reactive things where they're just looking at what Marvel did. It's just Coke and Pepsi all over again, really. It's like, there's a Spider-Verse, they put all the Spider-Man in it. Let's put all the Batman in a movie. It's silly.
Well, to be fair, they've been developing that from before. It was sort of, they started working on it around the same time. It's the Flash movie is taking longer to come out.
Yeah.
Fine. I don't love what they've done with the Flash, who was my favorite superhero growing up. But, you know, to bring back Michael Keaton, you know, I feel like you'd also have to bring back Tim Burton and that sensibility. Yeah. And I'm a little hesitant to give it my thumbs up because even though I love Michael Keaton and I think he was really fun as Batman, you know, it's going to be inconsistent. It's really just going to be fan service at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested in that because I think it's meant to be like a final goodbye for Ben Affleck's version because he wants to step away, and then Michael Keaton is going to kind of take over as the mainline DCEU Batman, which a lot of fans welcome that because, you know, a lot of fans grew up with that version as their favorite. Yeah. But, I mean, kind of walking back to the Batman, which, you know, we're reviewing here, let's talk about the best and worst of this film from Matt Reeves. Matt Reeves, you know, has done the new Planet of the Apes movies. He did a couple of those. He did Cloverfield, was, you know, one of the first ones that he got known for.
Which
now
was
he has done this.
Incredible.
Yeah, I mean, so he's got a great track record. Yeah. So I know we hinted at this before, like what the directing and was potentially an issue. For Andrew and for me, I know that directing was an issue here. I don't think this is the best directed movie, and I don't just mean directed as in what you were doing on set, but also in the edit room with the editor, because it's not like the editor makes all the decisions themselves. The director's sitting there giving notes. So I do believe some of the editing issues.
They were closed. Dan, have you heard they were closed for COVID multiple times? So do you think that had something to do with it?
But fair, but also, you know what? There were other movies that were shut down because of COVID too, and multiple times. Like Mission Impossible got shut down multiple times due to COVID, and we haven't seen that movie come out yet, so we can't really make that comparison. But I don't think it was a unique scenario to this movie, because it doesn't change how you make editing decisions once you get into the, in post-production and Matt Reeves is sitting there in the edit room. But we have been talking all about this movie, and we haven't really heard much from Brian, and Brian's the one who's most recently watched this movie out of all of us. I watched it on Tuesday in the special IMAX fan screenings. The rest of us kind of watched it, between Thursday or Friday. Brian watched it just yesterday, like on Saturday. So Brian, what were your thoughts on this movie?
No, I totally understand what you guys are saying. It feels like they're kind of like rehashing this thing, like we've seen it so many times, like the detective thing, Batman trying to, figure out, get to, the bad guys, and, he has all the clues and everything. But I don't want to take away from, kind of like the whole like acting on all of it, the people that were in it, the job they did. I thought Robert Pattinson, to Mags's point, is that there was like a humanistic element there, that I was going to bring up. I thought he definitely put his own kind of touch on the role of Batman, and I thought he did a good job with it. Zoe Kravitz, I thought she did a pretty good job, as Catwoman. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of a connection with, between her and Robert Pattinson, but
so
for the most part,
Brian, could you get it? Could you see the chemistry between those two?
Yeah,
a little bit. Okay.
A little bit.
Because I struggled. I struggled.
I wanted to see. Yeah, I wanted to see more. I felt like there wasn't really a connection there. I wanted to see more. But Paul Dano, he did an unbelievable job. As Riddler, I thought.
I agree with you there.
I was blown away by his performance. You compare him to like Jim Carrey as like Riddler. There's no comparison. You know what I mean? Like Paul Dano.
Well, that's kind of hard to compare them because they were two different styles that they were going for.
Yeah, it's two different styles. But when you see somebody in spandex,
let's see the next Mr. Freeze. Let's see who matches up to Arnold Schwarzenegger in a giant ice costume.
Rock. Matt Reeves going to be Rock, Dwayne Johnson.
Matt Reeves mentioned that they might do like a more realistic version of Mr. Freeze. Maybe he's another serial killer who freezes their victims. So that might be something to do in a future movie. But it's like comparing the Bane from The Dark Knight Rises to Batman and Robin. Two completely different characters.
Yeah, it's completely different. You're right.
Yeah, personally, I thought that this version of the Riddler was good at times, but very derivative of past versions of Joker that we have seen. And I'm not just saying Heath Ledger's Joker. I'm saying the very, whether it's Jack Nicholson's Joker, Jared Leto's Joker. Like, I just thought that the performances were a bit derivative. And speaking of which, there's
the interrogation scene especially.
That was like, I was like, okay, great, because Andrew mentioned this. This movie kind of follows a lot of the plot points of The Dark Knight, but to me, it was like a lesser version of that. Because if it was a crime thriller, noir, mystery sort of a movie, I always felt like I was either ahead of the Batman or following right there. I wasn't never 2 steps behind. So there was no mystery to it to me. Like most of the time I was like, this is going to happen. Oh, now this is going to happen. So that's the part which kind of like was not great. And then there were some logic gaps. I want to point this out to you guys. Do you guys remember the part where the Batmobile gets introduced? So the Batman got shot up and he's on the floor.
Yeah.
And then like they finally come around the side and then he's gone. Right? And then Gordon's hiding on the other side of the car and then there's Catwoman's like right there, just hoping that the monsters don't kill him.
Yeah, why did it stop though? Why was there like
Well,
hesitation? I didn't
no-
understand that.
No, well, first they were like, okay, well, you know, you shooting at each other. They're like, oh, let's see what happened. Did we actually kill him? So then they come around the side. What bothered me was none of that. What bothered me was then he's in the car and I don't know, maybe he was trying to intimidate them. Like he's revving his engine and then Penguin just sits there and stares at him for like 10 seconds. And then he's like, oh, shoot, this is about to be a car chase. Let me go get my car so that Batman can chase me. So now let's get the show on the road. Like in the, the effect is happening before the cause. And the logic
I'm
of that
surprised
didn't
nobody's
make sense
talking
to me.
about the whole rat with wings thing.
I
Yeah.
was just going to bring that up. I was just
But the
going to bring
rat
that
with
up.
wings, yeah.
So it's there was so much, like, you're establishing that the Riddler has all of these ideas and all of these theories that he thinks are so clear, and Batman should be able to get them. And in that scene where he's like, what do you mean you didn't get it? It's right there. And it's like, yeah, you're supposed to see, you're insane. Not everybody sees the world the way that you see it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But why is Batman able to get all of these other really like dense, hard to grasp, but also silly riddles? You know,
That's why I thought they were cheesy.
Yeah, when
they were
it's
cheesy.
you think he's the rat with wings, he's guessing.
It was
no
inconsistent. There was no like through line between
Yeah.
any of that stuff. And
Yeah.
at times this movie kind of jumped, like made a lot of logical leaps that you wouldn't know how to get from point A to point B. And at other times it shoved things in your face. Like the first time you meet Zoe Kravitz as Selena Kyle in the club, when she's walking over to give the drink and then pick up the drugs and hand over the money to Penguin, and Batman's right there talking to Penguin in costume. We see a shot at the Batman, and then we see Zoe Kravitz pause, Selena Kyle pause, and then we go back to Batman staring at her, then Selena Kyle staring at him, and then we do another exchange of glances, and then we're like, oh, now we know. I mean, in case you didn't realize by now, something is odd, you know?
Dan, it was not even that. Do you guys remember the scene? I mean, multiple scenes where Bruce Wayne was trying to figure out who killed his father. He went to Falcone, then he went to the hospital to talk to Alfred. After that, he went back to it because he did not see past Falcone's lie. It was so... It almost got to the point where Matt Reeves was writing it, and then he didn't know what to continue on writing.
It wasn't very clever, you know? Like, that's what I mean,
It actually wasn't even clever. It was very... It didn't make sense. It was like filling a hole, a gap, essentially filling a gap.
Disconnect.
And then we get like that late second act montage on the TV broadcast about the Waynes and the Arkhams, you know? And I'm like, now I'm getting exposition this late in the movie, and then we kept getting that in the third act. So, it just kept happening.
So, just to kind of end this off, let's just talk about one more thing, which was the end credit scene. Did you guys stay long enough for that?
I left.
Yeah,
I
had
did
enough
too.
after
I
3
looked it up
hours.
online.
I left because I knew what it was. Like, it's just, what is it, like the Matrix screen shows up?
Yeah, it's a website for Rada, the rat with wings thing that Batman types in on his computer. But basically, if you go into it, you get 3 riddles, and then you do this, and then it sends you like a file, and then you have to figure out the password for this encrypted file, and then it gives you this video for the possibly next movie, which is, and it hints at Hush, which is a Batman villain, which they also
there was a reference
heavily
in the movie.
referenced in the movie.
It was a reference in the movie.
I thought they were gonna make Riddler Thomas Elliott.
Yeah.
So I was like, whoa, what's happening?
I, in fact, thought that's exactly what they were going for in the whole montage and all that. And then he's just like an orphan, any random orphan. I thought that was a missed opportunity for me, I thought, you know. Especially because they have the Joker at the end of the movie. And they obviously are hinting at, I mean, I think it's the Joker. Barry Keoghan playing the prisoner. I think it's whatever his name in the title.
It's pretty clearly the Joker.
Yeah,
the laugh like that.
Yeah.
Makes a reference to himself as a clown, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, speaking of which, there are spin-offs and sequels coming. Have you guys heard about that?
But I hope they're just not going to use good cast, because I think this is one of the main problems with that film. They casted very good actors for undeveloped characters.
Yeah.
That was
I mean, they did the
it.
best they could with what they had.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah,
but with
I totally agree.
Those actors, this should have been a completely different movie, and that's kind of my final thought.
I agree. The writing failed a lot of the other elements. Like, it had all the ingredients, but a great script to go with it.
Yeah.
You know?
I just didn't want to take away from the acting. I thought the acting was pretty good. You know, the action scenes were pretty good, but yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, the whole script was just, you know, there was a disconnect.
Are you going to see the next one, Brian? Do you reckon you'll make it for the spin-off or sequel of it?
Kind of interested to see. Well, I'm kind of interested to see where they go next with it, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I can give a definite answer.
I really want to watch GCPD because I missed that dialogue. That dialogue was the best.
Dude, there were some moments with Gordon, Lieutenant Gordon in this movie that were just hilarious, and they were not supposed to be. But
I didn't like him.
But yeah, I mean, because I did like he was like he became the comic relief of the film, and I think it was unintentionally so. Because remember they walk into that like old Wayne Manor, and it's was supposed to be like an orphanage, and it's decrepit, and he's like, Batman tells him no guns. He's like, oh, that's your thing, man. I'm gonna do me. And it's just the tone in which he talked to the Batman the whole time was very casual.
Yeah,
but
I didn't
also
like the
jarring.
good cop, bad cop thing. I thought I was like, oh, they're friends now. They're team up. I trust you more than any. You trust Batman more than the police force. What's wrong with you? You should resign.
How did that even relationship come to existence? Same thing with with Catwoman. I did not buy into it.
No,
why are they best friends?
I mean, the Catwoman thing they sort of developed throughout the film, but they're like, well, this is what it is at this point. Let's just keep going. But anyway, this is sort of a year 2 Batman. So there's obviously this is not the origin story. So as Roland mentioned,
which I'm very thankful for.
Yeah.
It was
Me too.
such a smart move to go with year 2. But why did nobody call out that Batman was Bruce Wayne? Like, all of the elements were there, was right in their face. I think even at the end,
it's there.
They said
Riddler is like Bruce Wayne, the one guy we didn't get.
Yeah.
And then
they even focused on camera for a second. There was a shot on camera looking, like observing the whole.
Yeah, that was cool. I actually did.
I mean, heck, those twins that kept getting beat up by the guy, by Bruce Wayne the whole movie, they should have figured it out by the 3rd time that it was Bruce Wayne.
He punches like Batman.
Right, or like he says literally the same line the same way, like, you know who I am? And then he shows up without the Batman costume, you know who I am? And I'm like, at this point, like, that memory is probably burned into your brain because you got beat up by that dude right after, right? So logically, I don't know, maybe that was the intention. But yeah, they have a sequel plan. So the Penguin is a follow-up series for HBO Max they're planning. So Colin Farrell's going to come back and be the Penguin, which is going to be fun. They've also planned out a GCPD show, which probably, I think the Matt Reeves mentioned recently on the press tour that it's going to focus a lot on the Arkham Asylum inmates, or Arkham Asylum in general. So they've got 2 HBO Max shows coming up. Matt Reeves has also been talking about the Batman 2 is already in development. So
and also, I think we're having unpopular opinions because you guys mentioned that this film is doing extremely well, right? People
which kind of made me feel bad.
No, this movie it's supposed to be making close to like 250 odd $1 million.
Yeah, but you know what? You pay to get into the movie. and then you watch it and then you leave. And it doesn't matter how good it is once you paid for it. It's over. They got your money.
Yeah.
So they'll make plenty because the anticipation is huge, and as you can see, they're going to keep making more and more Batman content, and people are still going to go and they're going to love it or hate it. They're going to watch it because they love Batman, and we can sell them Batman again and again and again and again.
Andrew.
All right, Riddler.
Oh my
Joker, really? My goodness.
This is a dark future for us, guys.
Give me a friendly Superman movie. I would kill for that. Just make him a good person again. That's all I want.
Yeah, God. I mean, there's plenty more to come with this movie. I think the fans are loving it so far, majority, and the critics too. So I'm sure this is going to be in the conversation for a while. But Roland, I mean, I think this wraps it up for a review of the Batman.
It's a sign for us to wrap up. Yeah.
I think it is. Yeah. Did you? Yeah. You saw me. Yeah. So let us know what you think before, obviously we kind of have a cynical approach, but let us know what you like or what you hate about it. We're interested in seeing that. But enough about the Batman. Let's talk about the future. Let's talk about the way future. Next time, we're going to do our crystal ball, where we try to figure out what's going to be happening in the future, make our recommendations, with entertainment, with technology, with this and that. Personally, I think mutton chops are going to make a comeback. That's my prediction.
Interesting. Mutton chops. I like it. I like it.
It only makes sense. The
It
mullets are
does.
coming back. I feel like mutton chops. I'm surprised they haven't already.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Good show.
I was thinking more like what
into the
happened with the
mustache.
streaming wars, but okay.
We'll also talk about that. I'm not saying we can't. There's no restrictions.
Okay. The future of the world in general. Or well, let's not get that broad. The future of entertainment, we'll call it.
Yeah.
We'll try to beat The Simpsons and the accuracy of their predictions, and so let's hope we get that right.
Sounds good.
Really, Andrew, where can the people find us?
Well, we are all over the internet. If you want to follow us, look for Oh So Curious on any of these platforms. YouTube, that's the main one. Instagram, anywhere you get a podcast. If you look for Oh So Curious, it's some iteration of that with underscores or none at all. But be our friend, follow us, keep up with us, see what we're up to. We're working to make this an entertaining show. So spread the word and hang around. That's pretty much it.
Amen.
Amen.
I like it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, thanks for watching, everybody.
Yeah.
It's been a
Like and
pleasure,
subscribe.
guys.
Let us know.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm talking over Roland. Roland, you do your thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Dan, know your place. All right, audience, go away. Goodbye.
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 Bye, guys.